Hey guys, so we are getting started with our week 9 notes. This is actually the last week of notes that we have, so we're going to be working on dividing radical expressions as well as adding and subtracting them. So first we're going to start with dividing, and we're just going to look at the quotient property. And the quotient property says that we will break the radical up, one in the numerator and one in the denominator. Okay, so if you look at the example that I'm giving you guys here just with the variables, it has the square root of a over b. You can break that up to the square root of a over the square root of b. You can do those two separate. Okay, then you'll just simplify the numerator and the denominator and then go from there. Okay, so looking at number one, first thing we are going to do is split it up into the numerator and denominator. So the square root of 36 over the square root of 25. Okay, square root of 36 is 6, square root of 25 is 5. Can't simplify that fraction anymore, so that would be our answer. Over here in number 2, split it up on top and bottom again. So square root of 75 over the square root of 4. The square root of 75 splits up into the square root of 25 times the square root of 3. We're still following our multiplication rules there. Square root of 4 is just 2. Square root of 25 simplifies to 5, so 5 root 3 all over 2 would be our final answer. Down here in number 3, we're going to split this up, the square root of 108 over the square root of 49, and then we will simplify from there. So the square root of 108 actually simplifies to the square root of 36 times the square root of 3 all over the square root of 49, which is just 7. Square root of 36 is 6 times the square root of 3 all over 7 would be our final answer. Last one like this, number 4, we're going to split it up. So square root of 12 over square root of 9. Square root of 12 splits up into the square root of 4 times the square root of 3 all over 3. Square root of 4 is 2, so 2 root 3 over 3 would be our final answer. You cannot simplify the 3's here because one of them is underneath the square root and one of them is not, so they cannot combine with each other. Okay, so that was just our short little introduction to dividing. I don't think that's anything too difficult. Now we are going to be looking at adding and subtracting. So we can add and subtract radicals the same way we combine like terms. Okay, and the example that I'm giving you guys here is if I had 5x and I added 4x to it, my answer would be 9x. You notice the x's don't change, it just stays x. All I do is add the coefficients to get 9. So that's the same thing that we're going to do here. Okay, so the radicands, if you remember that, that's the number underneath the radical sign. It has to be the same when we add or subtract. Okay, like I said already, we're only doing the coefficients. We leave whatever is underneath the radical exactly the same. Okay, and then we'll simplify the radical first if we have to. So looking here, if you notice, what is underneath the radical is exactly the same. So I know I can combine whatever coefficients are out front. And there's like a 1 out front here. So all I'm going to do is 1 plus 6. So it's going to be 7 root 3. It's just like whatever is underneath the radical is just like a variable. It just stays what it is when you are adding them. Okay. Number 2. Same thing underneath the radical, and I can't simplify it at all, so all I'm going to do is add what is out front, add the coefficients. So negative 10 plus 9 is negative 1. You can just write it as negative and then the square root of 6. Remember, it does not become the square root of 12, it just stays what it already was. Okay, number 3. Here I have the square root of 5 and then the square root of 6. I cannot simplify either one of those. Okay, there's nothing I can take out of those square roots to simplify them, and since they're not the same, I can't add them together, so this cannot be simplified. What I'm given already would be my final answer. Okay, number 4. I do have an 8 under both of them, so that's good. So you have 2 options here. Since 8 can actually simplify into root 4 and root 2, which can simplify from there, you can do that ahead of time, or you can combine and then simplify. It's really up to you. In this case, I'll probably combine first and then simplify. So remember, this is kind of like a 1 out front here, so it's going to be 1 minus 3. So negative 2 root 8, which is negative 2 times root 4 times root 2. Negative 2 times square root of 4 is 2 root 2, so negative 4 root 2 would actually be our final answer. Okay. Number 5, they are not the same underneath, but let's see if we can simplify either one of them. 3 can't, but I can simplify 27. So negative square root of 3 plus the square root of 9 times the square root of 3. I can break up 27 into that. So negative root 3 plus square root of 9 is 3, and then the root 3 stays. Now I have the same thing underneath. That's like a negative 1 out front. So I can combine those. So negative 1 plus 3 is 2 root 3. That would be my final answer. Number 6, let me see if I can simplify either one of these. Root 20 is the same as root 4 times root 5 minus square root of 45 is root 9 times root 5. This first part becomes 2 root 5 minus 3 root 5. I now have the same thing underneath the radical, so I can combine the coefficients out front. So 2 minus 3 is negative 1, or just negative square root of 5. Last 3. All right, so I have 2 times the square root of 72 minus 2 times the square root of 200. So 2 to the square root of 72 can split up to the square root of 36 times the square root of 2 minus 2 times square root of 200 is the square root of 100 times the square root of 2. So 2 times the square root of 36 is 6 root 2 minus 2 times the square root of 100 is 10 root 2. So this would be 12 root 2 minus 20 root 2. Same thing underneath the radical. So I combine the coefficients, and I would get negative 8 root 2. Okay, 2 more. Again, I first want to go ahead and simplify as much as I can. So the square root of 63 is the same as, don't forget the negative out front, root 9 times root 7 minus 4 times, and then when I simplify the square root of 175, that is going to be the square root of 25 times the square root of 7. So then from there would be negative square root of 9 is 3 root 7 minus 4 times square root of 25 is 5 root 7. So negative 3 root 7 minus 20 root 7. Okay, I can combine what's out front because what's underneath the radical is the same. So negative 23 root 7 would be my answer. Last one. Okay. Negative 2, and then I can simplify this to be square root of 4 times the square root of 6 plus 3 times the square root of 4 times the square root of 3 minus, this is the square root of 81 times the square root of 3. So I can go ahead now and start simplifying. So negative 2 times 2 root 6 plus 3 times 2 root 3 minus 9 root 3. So negative 4 root 6 plus 6 root 3 minus 9 root 3. The only one I can combine are these last two because those are the only ones that actually have the number underneath the radical being the same. So this negative 4 root 6 just kind of stays where it is. 6 plus negative 9 or 6 minus 9 is going to be negative 3, so minus 3 root 3. That's as much as I can simplify it, so that would be my final answer. Okay, so that was just like a quick brief overview. I'm actually going to talk to you guys about the guided practice, the homework, and the IXL. So if you're watching these notes, don't go ahead and get started on them quite yet because there is a couple things that I want to talk to you about, what I'm actually expecting from you in that sense. So when we meet up, we will discuss all of that. Okay, so I'll see you guys soon. Bye.